All right, welcome back. Who here is excited about this next speaker? Awesome. So we're going to do this a little bit differently. We're going to do this kind of a fireside chat interview style type of thing. So it's going to be a little different. It's going to be fun. You guys are going to enjoy it. The next speaker has a lot of wisdom to share with you. In fact, he's the reason that many of us are here today. All of us are here today at this event. So you're going to hear his story. You're going to hear a lot about him. But I want to set this up properly because you heard my story about many years ago, the event that changed my life and the connections that were made that ultimately led to a phone call from Mike. And that phone call completely changed my life. I never would have built the business that I've built, had the successes that I've had, met the people that I've met, and the relationships that I've had that have absolutely, completely changed the path and course of my life. So I owe a debt of gratitude to this guy that I'll never be able to repay. He is the godfather of attraction marketing. He is the man that started it all. And he's one of my dearest and oldest friends. In fact, this is the first time in a long time that my four of my closest friends have been under one roof, which is really cool. But Mike has a special place in my heart. I got to be a part of his wedding. I got to see his son, when he was a little baby and hold him, and I haven't seen him in so long. And it's just so good to see this guy again and to be able to spend some time with him, and more importantly, to be able to have the opportunity to bring him here to share some of his wisdom, his lessons learned, and his knowledge and value that he has to offer all of you. And I think you'll find it very valuable. So without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and have you guys stand on your feet and welcome my good friend, Mr. Mike Dillard, to the stage. So let's start off. I want to go back in history. I want to go back to the time that you made the decision to start out on this crazy journey of entrepreneurship. When was it? Take us back. Share with us, where your mind was at, where you were at physically, all that good stuff, and just.
Yeah, that was actually back in high school, and it was as a result of waiting tables every weekend through school and coming home at midnight, 1 o'clock, and smelling like a garbage can of food and sweat and nastiness while all of my friends were out, having fun and having a good time. And I'd come home around midnight, 1 o'clock, and want to wind down. And, there's not much on television at that time of night except infomercials. And so I used to sit there and watch Brad Richdale infomercials and Tony Robbins and, Carlton Sheets and all of these guys. And, it was a very motivational piece of information to take in at a time when you're coming home completely exhausted from a job that you hate. And so it was really, the desire was built there, the belief that it was possible was built in that period of time. And so that's really how I got my start, was being opened up to the idea that possibilities were endless at that point. And so that really built the hunger in me to take control of my life and not really let myself be put in a position where somebody else has power over my schedule or the amount of money I can make. So,
Yeah, that makes sense. So there was a point where you made the decision mentally, and that's awesome. So tell us how that progressed and how you came to actually physically set off on this journey.
As many of you guys know, I got my start in the network marketing industry back in the late 90s while I was in college. I failed miserably at it for a good 5 or 6 years. I tried every single thing that you could possibly do, from going door to door selling air purifiers for Alpine to hotel meetings to handing out flyers to cold calling people out of a phone book to buying leads to really anything. And it never really clicked until I finally reached a point driving down I-35. This was after college, after I'd graduated college, had a corporate job, and I was driving down I-35 through the middle of Dallas, completely bummed out, miserable, and really just had a breakdown of 6 years of failure and said, you know what, I'm going to stop chasing success at this point because it hasn't worked, and I'm going to just focus on providing value and helping other people, even if there's no money involved in the process. And that was a huge weight off of my shoulders. And what I realized from that is the moment that you stop chasing whatever it is that you're after in a desperate way is the moment that it shows up in your life, because your attitude towards everything changes. So at that point, when I was talking to prospects or talking to leads on the phone, I was no longer attached to the outcome like I had been in the past. So they couldn't pick up on any kind of desperation or desire on my end to make that sale, to have them, join my business or buy my product. Because at that point, I just didn't care anymore, whether they joined me or not. And at that point, people pick up on that shift, and that's when they started to show up, and that's really when everything changed.
That's awesome.
So,
Yeah, I do recall our first conversation ever so vaguely. But it was interesting because I'd gotten a lot of calls as a result of that article. And so most of the calls, it was someone trying to sell something or whatever, but our conversation was very, hey, just wanted to ask I saw your article, I thought it was great, I had a question for you, just wanted to ask your advice. It was very non-confrontational. I didn't feel like you had an ulterior motive or an agenda, and so it was really just a conversation, and it was interesting, so it's very different. So when did you realize that there was something to this? Because if you look around this room, everyone here knows what attraction marketing is. Most people know that you're the godfather of attraction marketing, but they're kind of wondering how you created this movement called attraction marketing. When did it click for you to say, you know what, I have to share this with people?
It was really designed, I think all of my businesses that I've ever started have been inspired by the exact same thing, which was a personal challenge that I was going through at the time. And at that time, it was, hey, I'd started to get success in networking for the first time. I'd built my first team, but I absolutely hated what I was having to do to build it, which was still calling leads every day, still recruiting people, still trying to train people. And being as introverted as I am, that is the definition of hell, basically.
Yeah.
Having to talk to people all day long.
I can relate.
And so I realized, I was like, okay, well now I know that I can do this. I can be successful at it, but if this is what my life is going to consist of for the next 20 years, I really don't have any desire in doing that. And so I had to figure out a solution that would allow me to still stay in the industry that I had invested 6 or 7 years in now, and that still held the features that I wanted from a lifestyle perspective.
Yeah.
But I needed to bend it to make it work in a way that was compatible with my personality type. And so magnetic sponsoring was really born out of that problem or challenge, which is how do I get people to come to me, because I do not enjoy the process of chasing after others. And so that was it, and then it kind of took on a life of its own. There's a thing that I was writing on the airplane on the way here yesterday about picking your unique angle in any industry that you're in. And so whenever I enter a new market, like the finance world, which I did in 2010, my personal challenge at the time was, okay, my business has made a lot of money and I've pissed all of it away on doing really fun stuff and buying cars and houses and killing TJ with the jet ski. And that's a good story.
Let's talk about that.
Next to his.
So before we do that, what was your scariest moment of your life?
The scariest what?
Scariest moment of your life.
When I almost killed you.
When you almost killed me.
Right, because I was coming to grips with the fact that I might have to inherit your kids. So, do you want to tell the story as you remember it, or do you want me to tell the story? Oh, I can. We were down at TJ's place on jet skis in the intercoastal canal, and I did not have a lot of experience on jet skis at all. And if y'all have ever been on a jet ski for the first time, it's a very, very scary moment when you realize it doesn't have brakes, and in order to steer it, you have to give it gas. And especially when you're in a panic moment and you're heading towards a dock or a human being, the last thing you want to do is hit the gas. That's not the natural gig. And failure to do so means you're actually going to hit the object that you're heading towards, which is what took place. And 2 hours later...
I was the object?
2 hours later, we're in a hospital bed. We don't know if TJ's got internal bleeding or dying or what. And
I only peed blood for 2 days. So.
Yeah. So that was fun.
I do recall there being instructions from about the jet skis in the beginning. I don't know if you recall this or not, but there was specific instructions that it's against the law to be within 100 feet of another skier. And so I'm just saying, just throwing it out there. Anyway, it's interesting because Mike is one of the most tactically accurate drivers I've ever seen in my life. You drive with him in any car and you feel all kinds of emotions, but but it's interesting because he just has the most technical slides, and he executes all of his maneuvers perfectly, and it's amazing. He's got two really good talents. One is building businesses and the other's driving. And so I never would have thought that he would be the one to almost kill me. But peed blood for a couple of days, but other than that, all was good.
Yeah.
So
all right, we'll get back to some content.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. Yep.
So all of my businesses are built around a pain or a problem, and none of us are ever going to break into or create a new industry. We're all going to walk into an industry or a market that already exists. And so the question then becomes, how do you stand out in that market? And so for me, I've always really looked for a way to choose a unique angle. And so, at the time when I started writing Magnetic Sponsoring, nobody knew who I was. I'd never been on stage before. I hadn't received any awards. And but I did have a concept that was working really well for me that I thought other people would enjoy as well. And it was unique in the marketplace, and so I think that is one of the big reasons for its success. It wasn't the third book on attraction marketing, or the fifth, it was the first.
Yeah.
And, moving into the finance space, I've never been in the finance space. I have no idea, what to do when it comes to money or investing. Mm-hmm. I have no business being in the industry, and no following, no notoriety, no credibility whatsoever. And so how do you launch a business in a market like that? It's really sitting down and coming up with your unique angle. So for you guys, what is it about whatever it is that you're working on right now that you can do to make you stand out? What do you see in the marketplace that is missing that you wish existed? And so that's what I did for Elevation in the finance space is, I noticed everything out there was a newsletter. It was all text. There was no video. There was no personality. The smartest guys in finance tend to be the most dull and the most boring to read or listen to. And there was no genuine, just normal person who was just stating the obvious that everybody else was thinking and providing an authentic solution to that. So, that was the unique aspect to Elevation. And then, moving into, the current business in the hydroponic space, it's the exact same thing. When I am approaching this market, which, once again, I don't know anything about.
Can I stop you right there? Because I want to talk about that in a second. Sure. But I want to ask you a question, moving back to... Actually, I want to state something first. And the big lesson that I learned from you launching Elevation Group was that you don't have to be an expert, but you do have to be able to find experts.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is you had no credibility, no expertise, but you were able to leverage the credibility and expertise of other people to launch a brand new business. And can you share... the numbers of that business, like how fast did it grow? Because that was ridiculous, dude. I was sitting at your house, and you launched
Thanksgiving or Christmas.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I remember we were sitting outside, and you kept running in to check the numbers, and then we went. It was insane. I couldn't believe it. It was happening before my eyes, and I'm like, what?
Since then, a lot of people have done infinitely bigger product launches. But at the time, it was just me, basically, by myself, launching the blog, which is essentially what it was. I had one customer service agent and a tech person, and that was it. And so we launched that, and it did just over $3 million in revenue in the first week, and $10 million by the end of our first year. And again, in a market.
How many customers did you have?
That first week, 8,600 people joined.
Wow.
And by the end of the 3 years that I was a part of that, over 50,000.
Wow.
And the reason that it worked, guys, and many of y'all, I know there's a lot of members in here who were part of Elevation at the time. was the simple fact of the matter that I was very honest and open about the fact that I had no idea what I was talking about. And I was not there as the teacher, I was there as the student alongside my customers. And so you don't have to be some kind of rock star or superstar who has anything, to give you credibility to actually go into a business. You just have to have a problem that you perceive is out there with other people and then create the solution for it.
Yeah.
And getting back into the hydro business, again, I'm approaching an industry that I have never been a part of, that I literally don't know anything about. I read my first book on hydroponics maybe 6 months ago. And I'm creating a new business and a new product in that world because I see a problem with a lot of potential that can really make a huge impact, for the world. And I see a solution. And the goal for me then is just to map out, well, how do you bring the solution to life? And then how do you execute, from a skill set standpoint, the actual launch of the business? And so the biggest piece of advice that I can give you guys, and I feel like I say it all the time, so I feel like it's probably repetitive and boring, but I know there's probably a few of you who haven't heard this, so I want to share it. The secret to my success has been mastering a single skill set. And that's really what allowed me to go from waiting tables and no results for 6 years to then building a 7-figure business within the next year and a half. It was not looking at the business opportunity, it was not looking at the product, it was mastering a skill. And so whenever someone comes up and asks me, hey, what's the secret to success? What do I do if I'm not having results? I ask you, well, what skill have you mastered or what skill are you currently mastering? 100% of the time, it's none.
Yeah.
100% of the time, I've never gotten an answer back from anyone that says, oh, I've mastered this or I'm mastering this. Because if they had, they wouldn't be asking me the question,
Sure.
They'd be successful. And
What
so,
skill is it that you mastered?
well, for me, it ended up being copywriting, and that just happened to be what I naturally gravitated towards.
How many people are on Mike's newsletter? Okay. If you're not yet, can you give out your link?
Yeah, just MikeDillard.com.
So can you share with us what that's all about and your stats? Because I was blown away with that, just what happened with this little promo you did.
Yeah, well, I think the bigger message that leads up to it is, I've reached a position right now where I am personally spread too thin. I have my internet mentoring program that I run. I have the Self-Made Man podcast that I run, and I have the hydroponics business that I'm building out. And I really can't continue to do all of it. So I've had to make a decision on what I want to focus on, and for me, the hydroponics business is my passion and what I really want to bring to life. And so many of y'all know I kind of announced basically my semi-retirement last week from this world, the internet marketing world, and in order to really dedicate the majority of my time and assets to the hydro business. So I want y'all to just really kind of think about what that entails, because I basically declared publicly to my customer base that I am leaving, and there's no going back from that.
Yeah. So how does that make you feel?
What's that?
Yeah, you could always. Yeah, never mind.
Well, I just the point is, I have a business idea with a product that is not even a finished prototype yet, which may or may not work. That's going to cost a significant amount of money to build and to launch. And it's not going to actually produce any revenue for at least another 12 months. And I basically shot the cow that feeds me every day, last week. And the whole point is I had to sit back and make a decision, what am I going to do here? Am I going to play it safe, or am I going to go really pursue what I want to pursue? And when I made that decision, I just burned all the bridges behind me. Sure. And so I think that is an attitude that all of us kind of have to bring to the world of entrepreneurship, is what's the goal that you really want, and what's preventing you from achieving that right now? What is your safety blanket? What is your safety net? And if you have one that you've been reliant upon, everybody has their own decisions and whatnot, but I tend to torch them because it only leaves you with one option left, which is to succeed. And so that's what I did last week. And so this webinar this coming Tuesday is basically the last webinar I ever planned to hold, at least in this industry. And the topic is going to be on list building. And when I sat down and I thought about what is the one topic that I would choose to write about and to teach for my last kind of gig, and for me that seems to be the most important, because most people don't really understand that your business is not a product, it's not an opportunity. At the end of the day is your distribution channel. Mm-hmm. And so when you guys look at any kind of restaurant out there, Starbucks, whatever it may be, Starbucks is not in the coffee business. And if you don't believe me, take away all of their stores, put all of the coffee in a warehouse, and let me know how much money they're going to make. Right? They're in the distribution business. Yeah. And that's how they make revenue, is opening stores, which is why they have 23,000 of them. And so your list and essentially your social media following, whatever channels you have, is your distribution network. That's your business. So every time that I've left Magnetic Sponsoring, left the Elevation Group, leaving the internet world now, I still have a business in the form of my email list and my distribution channel, which is why when I launched the hydroponics business, I believe it will be a hugely successful launch, even though it will be a year from now and I'm not going to advertise it. It's just going to be with my core group. And so that really is the most significant thing that you can ever think about or work on, is building your list, building your distribution channel, because that will always remain with you no matter what you do and wherever you go, as long as you treat those people well and ultimately help them and provide them with value and build a relationship. So a list is a list. You can literally go buy one online for $1 million. You can buy a list of 1 million people for $99, which I looked up last week when I was writing my webinar. And obviously, it's completely worthless. And so the value that you're going to derive from that list or your distribution channel is dependent upon the relationship that you have with the people on it and the amount of trust that they have in you. And so I'm going to be talking about a couple of rules to live by when it comes to building and maintaining both of those. Cool. Because that's actually where the value is derived from.
Yeah, yeah. So I have a question for you. I want to get real. Can you share your biggest mistake and then your biggest regret?
For a free 10-day online recruiting bootcamp to dive deep into rejection-free sponsoring methods using the internet, click the link above or go directly to elitemarketingpro.com/go. I'll see you there.